If you're looking to lose fat and look great naked, these are 5 fat loss workout mistakes you need to avoid. Hey, I am your coach, Eric Bach, the host of the Look Great Naked podcast. You can also find me over at Bach Performance on Instagram. Feel free to drop me a message anytime there. Today, what I want to do is I want to break down one of the biggest issues that I see people face when it comes to looking great naked, and that is the idea of following a fat loss workout. It's going to ruffle some feathers, but the idea of a fat loss workout is complete horse shit. Fat loss workouts are a waste of time. What we need to think about is our nutrition is the biggest lever by a mile when it comes to transforming your body. The primary goal of your workouts should be to build and maintain strength and lean muscle. By extension, when we build strength, when we build lean muscle, that is going to help support optimal health and metabolic function, which prevents you from getting into that stubborn fat loss plateau. This does not mean that building strength and muscle, that wanting to lose fat should not have you focusing at all in terms of how many calories that you do burn, but it should not be the primary thing that we focus on. What we need to think about, and what we see most often, people will jump in wanting to lose body fat and they completely change what they are doing compared to a point where they're trying to improve performance or building lean muscle. And when we abandon the things that help us build lean muscle, that help us stay healthy, that help us optimize our health, we start to lose the benefits of those workouts. We start to lose lean tissue. And so what we don't want to do is tons of high rep training plus tons of cardio without lifting any heavy weight. That simply becomes a formula for muscle loss, plateauing with fat loss, and a skinny fat body instead of getting strong, lean, jacked, and athletic. So these are the 5 mistakes that you need to avoid to look great naked without living in the gym. So mistake number 1, do not ditch low reps for high rep training. Now, in theory, this makes sense. If you do more reps, you might burn more calories. If you do more reps, you're going to feel the burn within your muscles. That makes it feel like you're burning more fat. Well, what we need to understand is increasing rep count does not necessarily burn more calories, especially if we're training correctly. If we're training hard with a lower rep scheme, we're building strength, we're building muscle, we're training and putting those muscles close to failure based on the tension that is in there, the difference in calories burned is going to be basically negligible, except when we do the lower calorie or we do the lower rep style. We are training our body, we're telling it that we need to hold on to as much lean muscle as we possibly can while our diet primarily takes care of fat loss. And so what happens for a lot of people, they go purely to high reps, and then they start to lose strength. They lose muscle. They start to lose confidence in their training because they're not going as well. And when we lose strength, when we lose muscle in particular, our metabolic function actually slows down. It doesn't mean that high rep training doesn't have its place. In fact, incorporating some high rep training can improve metabolic stress, which is a component for building lean muscle. But we want to make sure we keep heavy weight training in the plan when it comes to fat loss, because we want to be able to hold and maintain as much lean muscle and strength as we can throughout the process. We do not want to abandon the things that build us strength and muscle, because without it, and if we're in a calorie deficit, then we will lose the benefit of that training. All right, number 2, we do not want to abandon all heavy and explosive training just for the idea of the burn. So what we see a lot of times, people will jump in, they'll do these athletic conditioning classes, they'll ramp up Orange Theory, whatever it is, and pretty soon, even if they're doing things that help them get strong and explosive, they've not only changed to the higher reps, but they've reduced the rest period because they're chasing the idea of burning calories. Now, if we focus on burning calories, here's what we need to understand. The average person first dramatically underestimates how much they consume by 25%. And so if we're off by how much we're eating by 25%, we have incomplete data there. It highlights how we need to pay more attention to our diet specifically. But in addition, a lot of people rely on exercise trackers. Heck, I've got an Apple Watch right here. I enjoy it. It's great for tracking my steps and my heart rate. But what these trackers are terrible at doing is actually estimating how many calories you are burning. These numbers are often off by an average of 27%. Some studies have found that exercise trackers are off with calorie burn by 93%. So if we are focusing on trying to burn more calories and we have terrible data that is dramatically off, here's what happens. First, we inherently, when we're tracking calories, most people will use this as a reason like, oh, well, you know what? I burned 900 calories playing pickleball today, so I can have this extra snack and I'm still at a deficit. The reality is, you're probably not in a deficit. You're off on your calorie estimation to begin with when it comes to how much you're eating. And then the estimation of how much you're burning is way, way off track. And so this leads a lot of people to put an overemphasis on how many calories that they are burning. And by extension, they are wrong in terms of their numbers. And then they overconsume calories and then they burn or build more body fat instead of getting leaner. This is obviously not what we want. And this isn't necessarily anything that you are doing wrong. It's just having data that doesn't necessarily tell you the entire picture. And as a result, that's why you're struggling with working hard, but not seeing the results you're looking for. Now, we also want to make sure that we do not abandon the heavy and explosive training for the burn. We talked about this a little bit when mentioning high reps versus low reps, but you have to think about it for a second. What type of body do you want? Do you want a body that's going to be strong, that's going to be powerful, where you can see muscle definition even at rest? In that case, we're going to be able to jump, box jumps, throw, medicine ball throws, lift heavy, compound exercises, deadlifts, squats, cleans, all of this stuff, because not only is it going to help us maintain as much lean muscle and hold our metabolism where we want it and improve performance, it's also going to activate what we call fast twitch muscle fibers and high threshold motor units. If you think about an athlete, somebody who's strong, lean, and powerful, they've got a different look, right? And when we train with heavy weights, with explosive things, where we're activating these high threshold motor units, we're actually improving what we call myogenic tone. Myogenic tone is how dense a muscle looks even at rest. And that's what a lot of people are after in terms of a look. And so what we want to do is not increase the reps and chase the pump and chase the burn. Like that leads to more cellular inflammation. It leads to more of a pump. Your body stores more glycogen. You have more of that pumped up look, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for your muscles to look full. But we also want to keep the heavy lifting in there because that's actually going to help us improve that myogenic tone with how defined and hard our muscles look directly at rest. Okay. So we want to keep that stuff in there, not just from the fact that it's going to help us optimize performance, going to help us optimize lean muscle. It's going to help us have the actual look via improved myogenic tone. Next mistake we want to avoid is circuit training and lifting weights faster. First, the idea of lifting weights faster, is it catchy? It is. I've seen some products on it. Can it lead to some additional calorie burn? Maybe, right? But again, as I mentioned, calorie burn is dramatically overrated when it comes to changing body composition, especially when most estimations are off by a metric shitload, all right? Instead, here's what we want to think about. If we're only training to be out of breath, it doesn't make a workout more effective for fat loss. It doesn't. Like there's a greater cardiovascular demand, but just because there's a greater cardiovascular demand doesn't mean it's going to be burning more calories long term, especially if we're losing lean tissue at the same time. An effective workout is an effective workout based on the mechanisms that we are triggering within the body. And the primary role of a fat loss workout is to be able to maintain and build as much lean muscle as we can, so we do not downregulate metabolic function when we're focusing on the most important thing for fat loss, which is eating at a calorie deficit, which is going to have a much bigger impact for fat loss. So the reality is, like, getting ripped doesn't require you to do brutal circuit style training. In fact, in many cases, when people ramp up the circuit training, lifting weights faster, doing more finishers, more intervals, all of these things, they actually increase one, overall stress. It's bigger cortisol response in your body when you're heaving and hawing like, a dying horse on a racetrack. It's going to be a lot more difficult for your body to be able to recover from that. When cortisol goes up, cravings go up, inflammation goes up, the fuck-its nutritionally tend to go up. And so there's all these other factors that play a role based on the style of training that you do on how effective you can stay with other aspects of your diet. You can actually get into better shape a lot of times simply by lifting weights, by training for strength, by training for muscle, and just adding a lot of walking. It's a very simple way to reduce stress and help your body stay in a lower stress environment while building the body that you're looking for. Next mistake is excessive cardio. Now, I'm not here to say that cardio is bad for you. In fact, it's crucial. Most people need more of it. And when you have an aerobic base, it's going to allow you to recover between your sets more effectively. It's going to allow your body to break down different foods that you're eating more effectively. We like to nerdily call that better substrate utilization. Those are all great things. But if we overvalue cardiovascular exercise and then we de-emphasize our weight training, what happens is we start to lose that lean muscle. And even if we are burning more calories with a particular type of exercise, the thing to understand with cardio is the more we do a particular type of cardio, the more efficient we get. This is a good thing in the world of sport performance, right? If you start running this week and you start doing a mile every other day, in 3 weeks, running that mile is going to be way easier, right? Like that's a good thing if you want to get better at running a mile. But on the flip side, you're also going to burn fewer and fewer calories doing it. Now, you can continue to try to run faster. You can continue to run longer. But in my experience, most people say time is the big issue for them. So if you want the most effective way to transform your body, to be able to lose fat, to keep it off, what should you do? It's going to be that weight training. It's going to be 4 days per week with a ton of walking. And when you do walking, it's going to be lower stress. It's going to allow you to stay in alignment with with your diet, with nutrition that much better and help you maximize that recovery process throughout. Finally, the next biggest mistake is working out longer and harder, trying to burn more calories. Again, research trackers, all this stuff is off by, in many cases, 25, 27%. Some I've seen as high as 93%. And the issue we have to consider is the more we train, the more our appetite gets stimulated, the more cortisol overall stress response we have. Most people are inherently underslept, undernourished, and chronically stressed already. And so if we add more activity on top of this, and then we take calories lower and lower trying to lose body fat, guess what? Well, this sets our body up not just to feel chronically stressed and to struggle staying with a plan. It also inherently is going to help trigger more appetite and increase cortisol, our primary fat storage hormone that happens, again, when stress is chronically high. So it's not that cardio is bad. It's not that doing some high rep training is bad. It's not that trying to burn more calories is bad. It's that if we focus on all of these factors without keeping an eye on what actually matters for fat loss, eating at a sustainable calorie deficit and maintaining as much lean muscle as we can, then we end up slowing down our progress overall. We overstress our body and we shoot ourselves in the foot. Fat loss does not need to be brutal. It doesn't need to be every workout feels like you're on your deathbed because you're trying to burn as many calories. In fact, it can be quite simple. With our minimalist muscle methods, we focus on 4 simple workouts per week, give or take 45 minutes per workout session where you're building strength, you're building lean muscle, and getting plenty of walking in. This is more than enough to help you lose body fat and look, feel, and perform your best, while you put the primary emphasis on what's actually going to help you transform your health and your diet. And that's going to be focusing on your nutrition approach. All right. Now, if you found a lot of value directly from this podcast, please do me a favor, go click over on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening right now, and just drop us a 5-star review and any thoughts you have on the show. And if you want us to cover any particular topics every Monday and or Tuesday over on Instagram at Bach Performance, we do a listener Q&A. So you can ask your questions and I will cover them live on the show. Until next time, look great naked without living in the gym.
Hey, it's Eric here again. Now, there are 3 ways that I can help you look great naked. Number 1, if you want to grab a free copy of the Look Great Naked protocol to help you lose body fat without counting calories, then go to bachperformance.com/free training. Number 2, if you're a busy guy looking to build muscle, then I recommend checking out our Minimalist Muscle Blitz, which has helped over 1,000 men build muscle without living in the gym. Just go to minimalistmuscleblitz.com. The link will also be available in the show notes. Or number 3, and last, if you want to work with me directly and get the best results possible, apply at bachperformance.com/coaching to look great naked without living in the gym. Until next time, my friend,